And there's different kinds of racism.
Activism has been alive and well throughout the Pacific since the early 1800s.
And this country here needs young people like yourselves to stand up too.
But I would encourage them to stand on their own 2 feet and make a judgment call at that time.
Educate to liberate.
At the time, in the 1970s, we were the only united Pacific voice that was calling out racism.
So some of the Panthers came along and we had a protest.
Tarafalava, my name is Alec Tuleofoa. Some have said that I'm still in my childhood. Some of the things in some of the ways I speak even.
Malaulei, Mili Manata, Montgomery. I was very lucky. I had a happy childhood up there where you washed in the creek down the bottom, hung your washing on the wire, on the barbed wire fence. It's any wonder my clothes were holy, but you know, that's the way I grew up. And church, we didn't really go to church because we were so far away, but that didn't mean the family didn't come to us. And my nanny, every night, we had to go to her little whale out in the dark, walk through, you know, I don't even know, we must have had a lantern, and we walked up to her house and we did, they're Catholics, so we did the rosary.
So in Greenland, we went to St. Joseph's School and the local school, which we used to walk to and from school. It was a miles away. To us it was nothing. Then we were from St. Joseph's School, I went to St. Patrick's College in Wellington Street and just loved it there. The nuns are very embracing, some of it too, but you know, pushy, but apart from that, no, they were lovely, very, very lovely people.
The earliest childhood memory I have is of family. Lots of family we had a 4-bedroom villa in Home Street, and just rallies coming from Samoa constantly, you know, getting kicked out of our bedrooms constantly, but the fun, having a lot of family around, and there was a lot of church for me, Sunday school, white frilly dress, black shiny shoes.
I also remember a lot of my cousins coming over from Niue. Mum and Dad brought them over, and at night, they'd be only about 18, 19 years old. They came here to work. Mum and Dad brought them over to work and help with the family. I remember at nights they'd play the ukulele and they'd sing songs, and sometimes they'd cry, and I often wonder, what's he crying about? You know, beautiful song. I think that was my influence of music. So the early childhood memories of that. The garden, where we used to go out the back with tins of spaghetti with holes in it to water the garden up and down the garden there, and the music from my cousins.
My earliest memories, and I need to put this in the framework that I'm Tongan and part Māori. My father was in World War II, came back and they had no money, so they sent us up north, my Tongan mother and the family up north while he lived in Auckland to find a job. And my earliest memory is that we took his nanny, my nanny, up there, and Tongan lady, and they built a house outside of the wooden house that we had, and inside it was layered with tapa cloth. So, you know, this is this Tongan family in amongst the Māori relations, so we were known as the Tongan family. My mother grew taro leaves up there in Kaita. They'd never seen or heard of taro leaves, and she also grew banana tree up there, so I reckon we had the first banana trees in Northland up there. So there was a very heavy influence of our Tongan part up there.
Living in Ponsonby, our house was typical of all the houses in Ponsonby, except we had behind us this big green area. And every kid in the neighbourhood played in that area. And we had like Samoan, Maori, Yugoslav, Indian, all the ethnicities all around the globe were in that street, and every street in Ponsonby had that similar sort of a mix. So we all would play together and out in the park, and there were times when we just kind of all gravitated to the park. And it was the earliest introduction, I think, to a multicultural environment. We wouldn't have understood it as that then.
And back in those days we had, was it scripture exams? It's once a year, and so we had to learn passages of the Bible, and so you had to turn up to your exam on a Sunday, maybe it was a Saturday, and you had to write out passages of the Bible. And it was very competitive amongst all the families, so that, and everyone, all the parents were anxious, and we normally got our results straight away, which was good.
What were your results?
It's a secret between me and God.
Particularly with my mother. She was always going to meetings because she was one of the founding members of the Niue Island Society, and so she would go with her good friend Marion McCoy, and there would often be arguments with my father because he didn't really see the point in why my mother was doing that. But I'm so pleased she did, because that's where I got my grounding and, you know, and wanting to be part of helping your community and helping your people, you know, whichever way you can.
I grew up in a little town at the bottom of the South Island called Matoda. However, I didn't know it was called Matoda until I was at Teachers College, because I grew up and it was called Matara. And so living in a place called Matara with a name like Valuanga, I think my first memory of being Pacific is that it was quite conspicuous, the name, and people's ability to say it. However, the really lovely childhood memory I have is that my father was from Samoa, my mother Palangi, and they married, and then his sister came out from Samoa and met my mum's brother, and they married, and so we had 4 children apiece. And just the community that we created as a family in a place like Matoda. I remember late nights all together. I remember top and tailing in the bed together, fighting over the most popular kid. We all wanted to top and tail with them. And even now, my cousin and I, we're grown women, and we still sleep together in the same bed when we get together. So I remember that real community feel. And then I remember when I was quite little, we went to Porirua and lived there. And I remember feeling quite white as a brown person in Porirua, so it was quite a contrast to how it felt living in Matoda. And yeah, just thoughts around that.
The largest Polynesian city in the world.
3 men, they walk into a bar, was a Tonga, a Maori and a Samoa. Well, they must have taken neck level, cause next minute, kani to pare more than more. Pare more than more? Yeah, that's a prison-ism, fear-mongering mechanism, cultural cataclysm. Too many words, they got too many nerves. Stopping us on the street is a bad cop. Criminology 101, ooh-wah. Back off backlogs of fights without a backing. Back us in the corner of the factory while we're still stacking. Cheeky-docky with an untouchable dream. I'm the migrant seed and you the tall poppy. And so the story goes, I'm in good, take a foul and get thrown into the cells like they're going straight to hell. Nah, stuff that we didn't come from backs to